And this game, it's a satisfying level. It's a satisfying level of building stuff. So, before I strip it all to nothing and rebuild the next one, I just want to show off my last invention. It was okay, but I think it was a little more stylish than it was functional. I started with a kind of an idea in my head and ended up making this thing, which is not really what I had intended, but it took a nice form on the way. So these blue parts you can see are shields. Still not entirely sure how they work, but they do seem to soak heavy-hitting stuff. I'm pretty sure if so there are three kinds of guns. There are machine guns, there are launchers, and there are railguns. Railguns, as you can imagine, it's very accurate, very long range, straightforward, single shot, long charge up time, and does a lot of damage. It's really good for punching a hole right through things. Launchers, by comparison, drop a big, it lobs it in a trajectory, and then drops a big explosion. So it's kind of easy to hit somebody if you're decent with the whole trajectory thing. But unless you get a direct hit, hold on one second. There are naughty cats about who have been stealing things. Yes, I'm talking about you, little sneaky face. As I was saying, the launcher it's fairly easy to clip somebody, but unless you get a direct hit, it doesn't do as much damage for the brunt of it. But if you load up a bunch of launchers, and if you position them well, you can get a nice spread, so it's kind of easy to roll over a bunch of people. This was a launcher design. And then the SMGs just kind of fire scatter. So the launchers have long reload time. The SMGs, you can pretty much constantly have them shooting. Each of them fires about once every half second, I figure. So you can, if you have, 6 SMGs, it feels like a machine gun. It's just ba 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 ba. The shields seem to be, they say they're effective against big things, and I think like a shield will eat an explosion or a railgun shot. Of course, the explosion can hit stuff around the shield. SMGs seem to just tear pieces away one at a time. Doesn't much matter if it's shield or not. And if you get a decent time targeting it, you can kind of shoot the hitch point depending on how people mount their shields. But so I started with the idea of I've been enjoying hover vehicles lately. So you can get wheels or you can get hover blades at this point. And the hover blades, they don't let you fly indefinitely, but they let you get a pretty decent range between the ground and hovering. So it can give you a decent buffer against terrain, and it can let you fly over other vehicles. Upside or downside, if you lose a blade, depending on how many blades you have and where you put them, you can end up just kind of hanging there. Alternately, if you lose a wheel, you just end up sitting there. And most wheeled vehicles, you won't flop the same unless you get flipped by an explosion or something to that effect. The other thing you can get are thrusters. They seem to kick in whenever you send yourself in that direction intentionally. So if you mount it sideways, I think they'll actually speed up your turns. Never needed that with the hover vehicle. Something I like about the hover is that you can turn on a dime really quickly, regardless of how heavy your vehicle is. Well, I imagine provided you have enough blades, but usually you want to use more than just a few blades for safety's sake. Otherwise, if you lose one, you're dangling. So the battle can often be to get a vehicle lightweight enough. So you see the construction is all full of holes, but it's also pretty well shielded. So something I have learned is that if you can shoot your way from the outside. SMGs, if they're not being particular about the targets, they'll just start eating pieces away. So some people will actually just design a giant brick, expecting you to take to chew your way through it. There are also kind of big spidery vehicles, which can be a big gamble. It might make it harder to hit, but then if you disconnect a piece from your pilot chair, the whole thing just explodes. It's gone. Gone. So if, say this cannon on the end, if this cannon was on a little line of single blocks, or I had two cannons on the end of a line of single blocks, and you shot out one cannon connecting that to the seat, done, gone, that's it. So you can see my nose out here. So each of these blocks, compared to the weapons, actually don't have that much hit points. They call it armor. But, of course, the blocks are sacrificial. So you can use them for a blade of shielding, or you can use them for the frame. The lowest level chassis pieces are white. They're heavy chassis, which it's more weight, but it has the same amount of hit points. The first step up are the bronze-looking ones. Step up after that are the green. Third step up are the teal. You can see I've started to get a fair number of teal pieces in there. And I think the way the scaling goes, the white blocks are 50. The brown the brown are, I think, 88. The green are 150, and the blue, I think, are over 200, 220, something like that. So it's not fantastic scaling, but it's definitely an improvement when one of these blocks has the same hit points as more than 4 of the starter blocks. But so lightweight design, redundant wheels. Generally speaking, when something gets blown off, it's just the tip out here, so I'll lose the front hover blades and I'll lose the launcher. That turned out nicely, even though it wasn't deliberately designed that way, because what happens is my craft doesn't have the lift in the front, so it'll tip forward, exposing basically this angle. So you see more shields, and you see all my launchers. But seeing all my launchers means my launchers can also point at you more directly, so I actually get a decent spread at that point when I start getting desperate. So it's actually really fast. You see I have 4 thrusters. 2 of them are tier 3, 2 tier 2. So a combination of that and the lack of friction with the ground is actually quite speedy. It turns really fast on the hover blades, all of which is nice. And I like the design. So the other thing that I've learned, remember how I said if you shoot off a piece in the middle, you'll actually lose you'll lose anything outside of it, anything not connected to your seat anymore. So you'll notice a lot of these places where I have an extension, it's actually has redundant connections. So if somebody were to take out these pieces on the side, like they wouldn't be able to just shoot out the block in the middle. They'd actually have to take out several blocks. So if it's an SMG that gets some lucky shots in, they can't just trim my nose with one lucky shot or 2 lucky shots. These pieces over here, obviously being shielded, I did not spend as much care to reinforce them. But the pieces that were more exposed, so this is on my tail, it's got some redundant supports. But I'm tired of this design, so I'm going to make something new. I have no idea what I'm going to make. I'm not sure if I want to do another hover vehicle. So at the moment there doesn't appear to be a clear all option. I don't know if I want to do a hover vehicle or driving vehicle. Hover feels more novel to me. I feel more nimble, which can be really nice. It's a little less stable, but if the design is good, you don't notice it. So something I've taken to doing designing is actually to start with weight cubes. So you actually have to buy the pieces. You can see the light chassis cubes are marked free, and these are, they might as well be free. They're cheap as can be. And the higher level pieces cost money, so it's actually, I haven't bought as many. So to give you an idea, on a successful round in Tier 3, if I have a really good game, I'll get 800 RP, which is the currency, the earnable currency. G0, what you buy with real money. On a really good round, I'll get 800 RP. And one of these blocks, building blocks, that you use anywhere from, say 20, 30 on a really minimal vehicle, to 150 on the most complex vehicle that I've made yet. That's 15,000 RP. That takes a long time to save up. If you get destroyed in a round with a vehicle at my level, it'll cost you somewhere in the order of 300 to 500 RP to repair. So even if you have a winning round where you do really well, if you get blown up, there goes half your winnings right there. It's not terrible. The rounds only take 3 to 6 minutes, which is very reasonable. But it takes time to save up. So I've been a bit conservative. And what I like to do is I like to flush out a design using the white cubes. And then once I know how it's going to go together, I can start seeing the core sections, and I'll use the strongest pieces in the areas that need the most defense or the most reliable survival. So if I have an extension to a part, if I have a really valuable part of the vehicle, I'll shore that in with the tier 3 stuff that I have. And I'll put ablative shells and supporting things. I'll downfill from there. So the question is, what kind of vehicle are we going to build? There's nobody in chat yet to call for something. I do like to build it in the air, so that lets me get under it a little more cleanly. Even if it's a hover vehicle or not. So, part of why I'm going to do a hover vehicle is because if you look at my movement stuff, I have not bought a lot of wheels. I do have access to a tier 4 steering wheel. So here's one of my issues with the movement stuff. So you look at a tier 1, so we'll take a steering wheel since I have, looks like I have access to 4 tiers. It starts at 119 kph top speed, 120 armor, 2250 load capacity. I've never actually run over load capacity, or maybe I wouldn't know. I would just be very sluggish if I did. Unfortunately, in the interface right now, it doesn't tell you anything except CPU. You see that in the top corner up here. So the CPU seems to be linked to player level. Player level seems to level based on doing damage to stuff. I get pop-ups in mid-round saying I've gained another player level. So that's one dimension in which you advance. But so far as I can tell, there is nothing that'll tell you the weight of your vehicle, the movement speed potential of your vehicle, the weight of your vehicle, all of which would be really handy to know. The other thing that would be really handy to know is the so it's not so that's interesting. It's not on the movement parts. So you see on this, there's a robot ranking. Every piece apparently except for movement, and I wonder if so your pilot seat, yeah, has 0 ranking. But each piece has robot ranking. When the sum of your robot ranking determines the tier that your robot will compete in, and the tier you compete in determines the stars you get. So as you advance out through the tech tree, you need higher tier stars to unlock higher level gear. A higher level gear has a higher robot ranking. You can see how that works. You get into the next tier by buying unlocking the previous stuff and actually building a vehicle with it. But you also see some really fun things with people downranking, where they'll have a tier 5 weapon on 2 blocks and a pair of wheels in like a tier 1 or tier 2 fight. So the weapon is insanely powerful. If they hit anybody with it, they're toast. But they have no vehicle, so if they get hit, they're in trouble. And so things I'm looking forward to that I haven't unlocked yet, just to point them out. You can get armored helium boxes, which basically just provide a passive lift, non-directional lift, and seem to have, so that, let's see, the tier 4 armored helium box has 291 armor. Tier 4 hoverblade has 800 armor. Huh. I hope those are cheaper. 190 robot ranking. So, as I mentioned, one of the things about hoverblades is that they'll let you lift a certain distance off the ground, but not super far, and that seems to be consistent regardless of how much max lift you can get off of it. I've seen the helium take people up to the top of the map which is really entertaining. I've seen people downranking where they'll have an obscenely high-ranked rail cannon mounted on a couple of helium boxes and a seat sitting on top. So they just float up to the top of the map. They can't steer. They can't do anything. They just sit there and bullseye people from across the field. I actually saw a guy win the game with 7 kills. I think you only go up against 10 or 12 opponents. But he took out 7 people and won the game by taking them all out before they could capture our base. That was entertaining. I don't know how I feel about it, but it was entertaining. But, so, as I was mentioning, I think I'll do something hover because I have lots of hover blades. I like souping up with the thrusters. I've seen people do hybrid things, but frankly I think it's just kind of eating up CPU load. I mean, having the wheels to fall back on if you fall is nice, but if you're taking that much damage, I mean, if you design well and you're taking enough damage to lose your blades, you're probably losing the wheels as well, so that's not a big thing. And when you're up to tier 3, you're seeing a lot of launchers, which means if you're getting hit, you're probably losing huge chunks of your vehicle at once. The thing I want to consider is how to use my shields well. So they don't, the first shields you get don't mount in a very convenient way. I feel like there should be a way for that to be helpful, but it's kind of tough. I have a lot of SMGs as well, including some tier 3s, but I also have some really nice launchers, so I'm thinking I might stick with the launcher platform for a while. It can be kind of nice for getting desperation shots off. The SMG is so unreliable at long range, you have to get in close, but if you're getting in close with people with launchers and railguns, they have a lot of time to kind of wear you down first, to just nuke you first. Whereas the SMGs really rely on fire. It's not to say they don't work and that they don't compete, they do very well. I've been playing with the idea for a while. I want to do a Lancer, but I want to get rail cannons first. So I'll do shields on one side and rail cannon, a few stacked rail cannons on the other side, and get kind of a jouster effect. Shields on one side, guns on the other. I would love to figure out a good way to shield some guns. But the trick is to shield them without obstructing their line of fire. I'm going to play with some stuff first, just to see the logistics of placing the shields. So let's see, so we want a left shield, we want a right shield. Right shield? Yeah, right shield, so it's the top. So it looks like outside of the hitch point, so the hitch point is going to have a piece exposed to the front. I assume there will be a thing I can unlock later that will let me provide more coverage. It looks like the second ones are plates. And then you get, I don't know, they're weird shapes. And if they go up in effectiveness, which they do, it's really strange. Maybe you can place them more efficiently, I don't know. So you can get armored healing. Keep jumping around. You can get foils, which let you fly, unlimited height. You can get bigger and badder wheels. The top ones look really intense. I like how broad they are, big treads. There's no tracks yet. I think tracks could be fun. For special equipment, there are rectifiers, flippers. So if you get stuck on your back, or turtled, as I like to call it, you can put yourself back on your wheels. There's enemy radar, which it's kind of a close range. Put them on your minimap. You can get a radar jammer, which I assume basically counters the radar to a point, or it makes it harder for you to appear, or I don't know exactly how that works. There's enemy radar, which has that's the longer range enemy radar. Then there's radar receivers, which I assume, because it just keeps saying more powerful, but there is no tier 2 on the thing, so I assume radar receiver either lets you pick up radar from friends. Actually, that would make the most sense. Originally, I've been thinking maybe it lets you pick up the whole map, but I bet it lets you get radar from nearby friends. you get bigger and bigger rectifiers. The rectifiers, I'm a little unhappy with how unresponsive they are. I have lots of ideas for when I unlock bigger stuff. It's going to be fun. Oof. I love the tier 10 blocks. Look at that. The black and the deep red. Makes some very cool looking stuff. It's less fun that you can't make the vehicle look consistent, but I'll live with it. So, looks like it's too high, and it will encompass, I wonder if it'll encompass a full 3 wide. Nope, not quite. So it'll encompass 2 out, and then it'll have a base. Let's see if we can mount a gun outside of that. No, I'd have to extend beyond. How much does it need to extend beyond? We're all learning together. So it looks like one more, and I could actually get an SMG outside the shield. So like I mentioned, the pieces have more armor than the blocks. But they're also the functional pieces, so if you lose them, then, you know, it's you're losing more than if you're losing blocks. But if the blocks are structural pieces, shooting that block out, you'll lose the gun. So it's kind of a careful decision-making process. Also, you cannot mix weapons right now. So you can either have launchers or I can have SMGs. I don't have rail cannons yet. I'm working off of this. I wonder what interesting things I might be able to do. So seeing this a lot, where they actually defend the corners. I think there's a case to be made for defending your mobility. Because there's nothing worse than being sitting in place, especially if you get stuck in place where you can't point your weapons effectively. That'll kill you. So let's see, how much clearance do we need around our tier 4? There's not a lot, actually. That fits quite nicely. And then it's a hard target. So, something to think of when you're trying to figure out the bones of your design is weapon placement. So let me see if I can demonstrate something. Just throwing blocks around, don't mind me. I'm trying to get a nice working platform so I can show you the logistics of weapon placement. So we've got our nice big tier 3 launchers. Thankfully tier 2 and tier 3 launchers take the same footprint. So you can see that circle around it. That means I can't put something right next to it or inside this turn radius because then the weapon wouldn't be able to turn. So looks like for these I actually need a full 3 spaces in between. So, if you think about it logistically, with these, if I'm pointing forward, both are shooting, no problem. For most of the angles with these two, they'll both shoot fine until I try to shoot directly to either side. Then one of them is going to hit the back of the other. So you can't do damage to yourself, but it will actually block your shot. Same thing goes for any of your pieces. So if I had a big ridge up the middle here, or if I had a big plate behind it, I would not be able to shoot behind. So you can see these yellow movement range bits. They can pivot a full 360, and they can up angle 118 degrees. So 90 degrees would be straight up. The 118 means that you can actually shoot straight up. Logistically, what that means is, if you think of it in spheres, these weapons can shoot anywhere in the top hemisphere above the vehicle, so they're top mount. There are front mount, but at the moment they're only SMGs. So you can see it does have a little bit of a down angle, but not significant. So I would be able to shoot something right in front of me, but I wouldn't be able to shoot something underneath. And as it happens, the way games tend to go, especially depending on your vehicle design, you might try to shoot people below you or above you. The hover discs can get you decent elevation, but it's not quite enough that you'll reliably be above people. I have seen people mount weapons on the underside. Launchers can't go on horizontal surfaces the way SMGs can, but they can go on any vertical surface. I assume that's something to do with the trajectory issue. Probably something in the scripts, because obviously in the real world that wouldn't be such a big deal. But so you can see when it's placed there, it'll have limited ability to shoot up above, and seeing as this is a trajectory weapon, if you're trying to shoot long range, you'll only be able to get so much trajectory with that bottom gun. If you've got the elevation, and I tend to use the elevation to get up above and duck below things, since it can be a nice mobility thing to just bob up and down in place, harder for people to hit you. But it's a little hit or miss, so there's something to be said. I've seen a lot of vehicles that will do a really simple design. Basically, they'll have a platform level behind it, so it can raise the next row up another level, and then it'll have another behind that, and put rows out that way. I've seen some that will just have a massive bank horizontally, and there's a balance to strike, I think, because they make a huge target. And generally, when they get the big bank of weapons, they'll have they'll have weapons stripped off, and I want to give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that they're expecting that. Maybe they just accept it. But, you know, you're a huge target. One of my previous inventions was actually a long, skinny boat with the launchers in straight line. What that meant is I couldn't shoot straight forward very effectively, but because it was a hover ship, I could actually twist side to side very quickly. So what I would do is I could face them the long way, and it would make me a really hard target to hit. And then I'd flip broadside, and all of my cannons could shoot. And basically, as soon as I came off of that straightforward angle, all three cannons would shoot just fine. But so let's see, continuing our consideration of weapon placement. Can we put a row in front? No. So if we put our next level up, the stagger can actually also help you get them closer together. Oh, wow, yep, that's actually still in the path. So I lied, it doesn't, unless you get a real elevation increase, it doesn't let you get them that much more. And if you get a real level increase, like I mentioned before, you'll never be able to shoot behind you. In general, that might not be a big deal if you're planning on being mobile, but if you lose your mobility, you can actually then lose your ability to turn and fire. And if you can't shoot at them once you're limping, you might as well just give up. Self-destruct, which is a thing you can do. Welcome viewers. I'm just pontificating on design. So, the other thing I need to consider is where my pilot seat is going to be. It doesn't seem to be terribly important, other than the fact if they destroy your pilot seat, your vehicle will explode. So it's not smart to have it, front and center, easy to shoot. And the placement will be significant because, as I mentioned before, if you cut the connection between any part of your vehicle and your pilot seat, that whole section of your vehicle will explode instantaneously. And the enemy will get credit for that damage. So I'm kind of thinking it would be fun to do something that was very stable, broad, and flat, something low profile. I don't know if I want to do sneaky shooters. I like a compact design when I can help it. And I like that the shields will give me that defense, and I like the idea of putting my whole vehicle behind the shields. So what can we do? We can actually do double front shields. So in general, if you're going to design it around functional pieces are expensive, so you might as well make the design internally coherent. So I'm just going to workshop this out loud for your benefit. So as a starter to the piece, I've front-loaded a fair amount of weight in the front. Like I said, I don't have a total weight tracker, and I don't think these hardware pieces actually list a weight. Yeah, they don't list a weight. I don't know if that means they have no weight or what, but in general, especially with the hover, having a decent weight balance is really important. Otherwise, if you have any elevation and you try to move, your vehicle will just flip over. I would be okay with that, and I would make some really fun designs if only if, my steering would automatically fix itself when I was upside down. But when I'm upside down, the left and right steering is reversed, and that adds just enough lag that I can be less nimble than I would like. It's not the end of the world, but I'm not fond of it either. So, thinking out loud, with this big rounded thing, so if I put a launcher behind this, I gotta arc over it, my guns would be well defended, but I wouldn't be able to shoot straight forward, let alone a down angle. So that's a lot of lost firing solutions. On the other hand, here's a thought. What if, it's a little bit of a gamble, but if I put my seat right behind the shields, do something a little bit spread wing. Where am I going to mount my weapons? So I want my weapons high enough where I can make a decent angle of them. So let's see. So make some wings here. I don't think this high front wall is going to last. I don't particularly care for that. I don't feel like it offers something particularly wonderful, unless I can hide behind it really well. But ultimately, I'm probably going to want some hover stuff out. So the physics isn't complete. You can put thrusters so that they're pointing into a wall on your own vehicle, and in real physics that means you would get nothing because the thrusters are pushing into the same body. But a lot of the other physics stands. So like I said, you want a decent weight balance on the hover blades, and if you have them mounted narrowly together, they'll offer lift, but they won't offer as much lateral stability. So what you'll find is when you turn or go over a slope, it'll be easier for your vehicle to flip. If you get them wider out, you can have very good stability, but that'll make it harder to defend, and it probably means you have drawn out sections in the middle that are weaknesses. But let's play this idea out just a little bit more. See, I think we need to get 3 to have launchers on the side. I can't put launchers on the sides, right? But we do one of these. Now we have our launchers up above. Their bases are shielded, as is our pilot seat. Well, okay, pilot seat's not shielded. If they shoot it, if they manage to shoot at center mass, the whole thing would go up in smoke. So it's definitely a little bit of a vulnerability in the design, unless I put a big prow on it, something meaty. Could make a nice vertical vehicle. I don't know how the stability would be, but let's play with the idea, see what happens. So, with 4 hover blades this close together, I'm going to have a lot of lift, but I'm not going to have a lot of lateral stability. So right now, this whole thing is going to be very top-heavy, and it'll flip over. So I can support that with my Tier 2 blades. But let's see how we want to lay out the weapons first. So right now, as it stands, I have... Yeah, it's not quite close enough. So we put another line here. So there's that prow. Put the cannons in. Now we have the positioning. The body's shielded. Definitely needs more lateral stability. And I'd like to get 3 more launchers on it, just because. Where would we put those launchers? That's the question. Could actually put a front portion out. But then what are we shielding? I could put 3 on the underside, but then it would have a really, yeah, it'd have a weird mix. So I'd have stuff that could shoot close range really well, and I'd have stuff that can shoot long range well. You know what? Let's see what we can do. So as I mentioned, physics, not good. I can put a wall beneath the blades, and it will still fly just fine. I can forgive that. So now we've got cannons top and bottom. We've got a very vertical structure. I suspect we'll want more lateral support from our other hover blades. So let's extend those out a bit more. So we'll do them front and back. At this point, I don't particularly care for the design, but I just really want to see what it will do when it's flying. So this should give me a little bit more lateral stability. And these will actually give me more lift in the back end, so the cannons have a pretty good recoil, so when they fire, the boat will rock back. Though I do now have cannons top and bottom, and they do seem to, sorry, launchers top and bottom, and they do seem to have a uniform recoil. I haven't noticed that the recoil is any different. We'll leave off the thrusters for the moment. I just want to see how that flies. Just because, we'll throw some radar on it. Throw a rectifier on it. Man, that's kind of a gargantuan, isn't it? Just a big upright thing. Let's take it out for a test drive. Oh, yep. See, too front heavy. As soon as I started, zipped right over. I wonder if that's from weight or just from imbalanced lift. See what happens when we take the thrusters off the back. So we could do ballast. The heavy blocks are decent for that, though when I can help it, I like not to have to rely on that. The design would have to be pretty substantial and satisfying for me to want to try and mess with adding, so adding the blocks adds more weight, adds more expense. Oop, there we go again. Yep, so that was not from the lift on the back. So the question is, if we put more lift on the front, will that counter it? How much lift do we need on the front to counter it? See, these kind of things would be really helpful if the game had some way of letting me see the physics of it without just doing the math in my head. Could put it on the front. Let's see what happens. always use practice mode. Please, please don't take your untested design. Hey, look at that! It didn't dip forward. That's remarkably stable. Now for the downhill test. Will it roll over if it goes downhill? Ooh. Yep. So having so many blades close together, it's a little twitchy on the steering. That's actually remarkably stable. How about backwards? Backward speed test. Get some elevation. So this is as high as you can go, pretty much. And that's what launchers look at you. You see that long recharge time. So all of my powerful ones are on the top, for better or for worse. It's just a big flying beast. I kind of like the vertical vehicle concept, and I like the big shield wall in the front. So incidentally, in practice round, you start off with a couple of filler vehicles, one on wheels, one on hover blades. It's only as you destroy them that you start getting ones that can shoot back. And they're not super fast, they're not super aggressive. Just clip the wings. Trajectory can be a bit tough. You can see even there where it wasn't a direct hit on all guns. So the design actually has merit for down angle shots. Let's see how steep a down angle we can do. That was actually pretty decent. I think we had some angle forward there, just from the way the vehicle sits. You can see, like there. Oop, yep, now we're upside down. So, you see, if I try to use the rectifier, pressing the button, not doing anything. If I try to use it, so you have to stop moving for a moment. So the most effective way I found to use it is to sit on the ground, and then it'll try to kick you right back up. Problem is, depending on the design, you might not actually get any useful kick. As it happens, my vehicle works as well upside down as it does right side up, but as I mentioned, flipped steering. Here's one that will shoot at me. I don't know why I just all shot in the wrong direction. SMGs versus launchers, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, here's the one we winged before. It can be really entertaining to dismantle somebody. There's actually another one that'll shoot me over there. Let's see if we can roll it back onto its feet. I had a previous design that actually... There we go. I had a previous design that actually rolled onto its feet very effectively. So that mech Anjo will shoot at me as well if I give it a chance. Unless I blow it up. The reader's a shooter. I think most of the things now are shooters. Oh, that's a nice spread. You know what? I kind of like this design. Let's build it out a bit. Question is, how can we improve on the design? Having these in the front is a little bit of a vulnerability. We might be able to shield them a bit. But the more we shield it, the more weight we add to the front. So, and we know what happens. If I lose those, the whole thing's going to tip forward. see if there's another place that we can put them that will accomplish the same thing. So these are actually already pretty far forward. If we expanded the base a bit, that would give us more stability. But we're making a nice vertical vehicle, so what fun is that? We're going to make this basically just a chair to sit on. Oh, maybe we'll call it something on that to that effect. We'll call it a throne. How to give it more forward stability without just sticking these up in the front. At the same time, maybe they'll be harder to hit. So if you look at it this way, it's not a prominent target. No, am I kidding? That will take hits directly. I would love to have that hidden behind the wall. Also move these launchers forward a rank and get a better range. I hope I can, actually. No, yeah, I should be able to. I like it. It's very tall, it's very narrow. What if we will build out on the underside? Oh, that won't quite clear. Here's my curiosity. If I can mount this there. Oh, not quite. I hoped if I could mount that far enough forward, like on that surface. Oh, but it's interfering with that, that's the problem. We can adjust for that and put angle pieces. We'll put our hover blades out to the sides. I wonder if that'll give the necessary lift. It's a little bit less grouped, a little less centralized. See if that's far enough forward to counterbalance, otherwise we'll have to bump them out a bit more. Let's see. Huh. It's enough. Oh, yep. That's entertaining. I can make it do flips. Wow, that's actually very stable. It wants to stay upright. I think it's because I've got a decent amount of weight on the bottom end of it, so it's acting like an anchor, bit of a plumb line. That'll do. I love it. I can do flips. Maybe I'll factor. Oh, but I can get stuck. That's very entertaining. I'm loving this design more and more. Oof. Okay, going up slopes might be a I'm not allowed. Tumbler. So I have to be careful going up slopes, or I might just flip end over end. What about going down slopes? So the hover blades have a really strange interaction with slopes. Like I said, there's a maximum height on the hover blades. So I can tip forward slightly, which means my weight. So I get a little more weight behind center of mass. That should make it a little bit more robust. I need it on the lower end of the vehicle. So they have a maximum weight. With a blade design like this, it should function more like Harrier. It should just, you know, kind of fly indefinitely. But it will pay attention to the slope. So if I go over a slope, you see how the vehicle tips, even though I'm way high up in the air. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but hey, it's the game mechanics. We'll stick with that. So let's see. I want a little more weight on the back side to counterbalance, and then we'll want to fortify the design as well. Do we have any? Right, we're missing thrusters. We need to account for the thrusters, as they will challenge the balance. They will. That's not a question. Doesn't quite sit there happily. I wonder if it'll sit on the underside of this. It's a bit exposed there. And so top end thrust is going to push the top forward faster than the bottom. And as we mentioned, we need a little more weight on the bottom. But if we push it from the bottom, that should counter. Ooh, and that actually fits right there very well. And it's got this blade in the front to act as a little bit of a guard. Tier 2 thrusters. Oh, those actually fit there. So that might be good. They'll push a little bit more into the center of mass, which I figure is in the lower portion of it. That's why we're so steady. So we added those to the back. So right now, it was happy tipping forward. It's got a decent amount of weight in the front and the top. We need to add a little bit more weight behind to adjust. We're also going to have to adjust for the weight, so the higher level blocks have more weight. So the starting ones are 5 kilos, heavies are 15s. It steps up to 6, and then to 7, and then to 8. So we're going to start working this in. So the seat is the key piece. If the seat gets separated from anything, that portion of the vehicle is lost. So in general, we want to connect the parts we want to keep with the higher level blocks. That said, the pieces in the core, like say this block right under the seat, if that's getting shot by anything, I've lost shields, I've lost body mass, I've probably lost weapons, and I'm probably already dead. So that's not the most important thing to have sturdy. This column, however, is, because this is exactly where I'm going to get shot anytime I'm facing somebody. So, important. Importante. But if somebody has chewed through those 2 lines of blocks, I've lost the lower shields. The lower portion of my vehicle is exposed. My hover blades are exposed. So even if they somehow shot a hole right through the center here, well, let's face it, if I take a shot from a rail cannon right through the center, I'm toast anyway. Put some sturdiness on the back end. We want to support the top as best we can. Those are our better launchers. So if we're going to lose any, we want it to be the other ones. See how many more of these I have. I have 10 more. That does not need to be a full block. When I was building it out, I wasn't particularly careful. I was just using the full blocks. So these blocks down bottom are actually holding thrusters and guns. These are lateral stability, so it'd be nice not to lose those from getting shot partway off. But if we're considering it, they probably won't get snipped from the inside. How many more do I have? I have 6. 6 more, and I like to keep it balanced for weight and for practicality. If we're defending the underside, well, let's get one more in there. Oh, we were connected to the thrusters. The seat is still sitting a little bit higher. We could actually lower the seat a little. Why not? Let's lower the seat to level. We'll put it on blue blocks. How many of our lovely aqua blocks we have left? We have 4 blocks left. I don't know if that rectifier is actually going to do us any good. Let's strip that off for now. So we have 4 blocks. We can put it on our spine. We'll put it on our thrusters at the joints. We also have wedges. Who does not like wedges? I know I sure like wedges. So we've already got wedges, so that's an obvious place to start. And those are not bad things to reinforce. We'll save the others for reinforcing, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a moment. We'll fill out the frame blocks first. So we've got a lot of these, so we'll just start filling these in with impunity. Put our seat back. Just because I'm a completionist. Make sure we don't have any white blocks sitting anywhere. So you notice how when I remove one of those blocks in the middle, all of this goes red. That means if that block gets destroyed, I lose all 3 of those pieces. I lose the thruster, I lose the hover blade, and I lose the launcher. So that's where we're going to want to reinforce this once we're sure we've got all of our white skeletal blocks out. Now we have a nice sturdy beast, weight evenly balanced. Now we can start looking at reinforcing and providing additional coverage. So if we line anything up on the prow here, that's going to increase the weight in the front. We know we need a little bit more weight in the back. Let's try filling in some core bits first. So we do not want to lose this. So you see now before, if this connects to this and that to that, if we destroy any block in the middle, everything outside of it is lost. Now, if this block gets destroyed, we still have this connecting. So that's 2-part connection. We can expand that further, and we might. But we want to anchor this front a little bit more. Can we? So we can actually anchor it from behind. I'm going to do something a little tricky here. So there we go. Now we can actually cement that from behind with another block. Oh, Apparently that's too close to the pilot seat, so it can't do that. So what we'll do instead is say, nope, no thanks. Yeah, I can't even mount something angled behind that. That's alright. That whole front mast is just going to be very sturdy on its own. So can we support that from underneath inside? I'm going to reinforce some joints. That's a really hard angle to see what I'm connecting there. That's connecting, right, that's above the blade. There's no space to connect things in the middle. Unless I can do two. Wow, I can. So you can't see it very well, but I actually just had two pieces doing some prayer hands in there. But those are my last two of those type, so we don't want to spend them all on that same side. I want to keep the weight balanced. Weight is important. So we'll reinforce our spine a little bit. That's putting a little more weight in the back as well. So we'll use our trusty tier 2 prisms to do that same reinforcement. Got a nice sexy core in there. We'll reinforce our sides. So now it's starting to fill out a bit, eh? Starting to look a little fuller. Now I'm going to take off my shields while I build in the inside. They're very easy to put back on, and they're kind of obstruction-y, as long as I don't try to build where they were. There's a little bit more reinforcement in there. We'll use this to reinforce our launchers from underneath. You could even put some reinforcement on the back. How many do I have of these? I have 20 more. Plenty, plenty. So redundant pieces, remember, one piece can fail and take the rest with it. Now this top portion is bolstered on all sides. Might want to give our radar a little defense from the back. That'll also give us some weight in the front, or in the back. So now if anybody's shooting from behind, that's not an easy target. We can provide a little bit of a cover for our blades as well. This is getting to be a little bit hefty. We might have to check to make sure that we didn't overweight it or imbalance our weight too horribly. So now, if you're shooting from behind, blades are not an easy target, and we can defend it this way as well. So now we've got a rear bumper. High nearby game. Alright, so the question is, do we want defense from the bottom? Is that terribly important? Probably not from behind and from the back. That might not be fair to dismiss. Let's put our shields back on and see how we look. I'm digging it. Let's fill in a little more of these corners. Just to fill in those gaps, no stray shots through there. Very nice. We can actually use that to reinforce our mast. Actually, that turned out rather nicely. So I'm not shy about adding weight to the center, mass, and low, especially in here where this will be a good joint to reinforce. I do need to be careful about adding weight high or too far forward. That's what will get us tipping. We might already be tipping, we should probably try that out. Fairly well packed in there. I like that you can do this. See how that's actually basically connected by a fin? It will work every bit as well. It will make a nice little bowl on the inside. I want to see how our weight looks before I start doing that. Or if we should connect these arms along the top, that'll give us a mount for the top of the mast. As long as we keep it below the level of the guns. Looks like it'll take 3 on each side. We're adding top weight, so we need to be careful with that. There we go. So now we have a little bit of top support as well. If somebody were able to shoot straight down, they could bullseye the pilot. And yet, I'm not going to provide a roof because I like the open design. And don't run into that very often. Chances are the whole top of my craft will get blown off first, and that would be a bigger problem. Well, let's give it a fly, see how it balances. So we're a little back heavy now from the looks of it. Yep. But we still flip well. That's nice. I think my rear bumper might be a little too much. Yeah, that can't be helped. I'm gonna have to strip that off. Maybe I can lighten it up a bit. Remove a bit of weight from the back. See, it's fairly far behind our center of lift. I suppose we could actually, if I cared enough, we could actually move our lift back a little bit. But I do want to keep it as vertical as I can. So let's see how that balances now. That'll give us a little bit of rear defense, but like I mentioned, you can spin rather well. Yep, still too back weighted.
Whatever, little girl.
That's alright. Let's see how that does. Most of our weight is... We've got blades behind most of our weight now. It should make it more balanced. Still a little heavy on weight in the back. If I go too fast forward, it's happy to flip backwards. Might be if I raise my thrust up under those side wings, but that'll take it out in front of the shields. Not quite what I want. Though maybe I could do it center on the inside. Let's try that. We'll move the thrusters to the top, so when I get that forward thrust, it's not so prone to having the bottom moving faster than the top. And now they're on the inside as well. And protecting my pilot's head from above with jets of fire. What could go wrong? Ah, there we go. That's a little bit more balanced. Still tipping backwards a little bit. Be good to pull the ballast down on it. Ooh, could still flip. Good to know. Hi, little girl. Did you find something? Oh, you naughty little girl. Did you find there were little pieces up there that you could steal? There's a naughty cat. Let's see if we can get it righted. The nice thing about this kind of design is that you can roll it. So it looks like it, yeah, so our thrust might be a little bit low still. For the weight. I don't want to flip myself when I panic and accelerate away. Run! So let's see. Why don't we elevate this a little bit more? I don't know if we'll be able to mount it where the smaller thrusters were. They have a little bit more of a footprint. Oh, looks like we are. So, and these now will push center mast, so we won't get center mast, so we won't get that tipping effect as much. Hopefully, maybe. Let's see. So we still tip back a bit. I'd like to get a little more weight in the front. But when we push, look how rock steady that is. Oop, so if we do a fast forward and then a reverse, I can flip. But let's see if I can get it to... Wow, I'm actually having trouble repeating that. I think I need to get a decent bit of speed going first. So if I try to reverse direction quickly... There we go. So can I stay upside down? Okay, so I can stay front side down. That's interesting. But it's... Wow, so as soon as I accelerate forward again, it rights me. That's actually kind of handy. So that's the problem with the compact design. It's a little hard to get that balance right. And I'd like to have it right first. Thankfully I can keep shooting no matter, because I don't have all my cannons on the same side. Except now I have no idea which way is up. There we go. So slopes. Slopes will be a challenge. Got a tumbler going on. Sometimes the solution to that is when you know you're going to take a slope to actually drop yourself onto the deck. It does somersaults so well. Something I know and yet I'm terrible about doing. Logically speaking, the smart thing when in a fight. Ooh. So it looks like if it's prone to float, it's prone to float to flip forward. So the way to counter that would actually be to put some of that weight back on the back. Let's try that, see what happens. So that will be stage one. See, already we're floating backwards. But we don't have, you see when I stop, I don't have that forward, that rock forward anymore. So when you move, because the guns are not, your targeting reticle widens. With the launchers, That doesn't seem to be such a big deal unless you're trying to shoot long range and then you get a bit of a scatter. But let's see how much of a scatter. So test 1. Yes, it's still not that big a scatter. With the SMGs, that can mean your aim goes from miserable to terrible. One of those is worse, I promise. Can't believe he survived that. Any of him. So I imagine close range will be a problem. Oop, there we go, we got it to flip. So we can get a little more weight, bottom and front. I think we might have a good ballast. Blocky destruction is terribly entertaining. Okay, as much as I'm sure you like looking at my illuminated face, let's get into tape. And cats everywhere, they're adorable. What would I do with myself? So let's see, what can we do to add a little bit of weight in the front? See if we can do a little support for the bottom of the mast the way we did for the top. No, it looks like our bottom extends a little bit further. The center is higher than the bottom. Could just add a little bit of weight right in the middle. So let's see, how do our pieces fare on weight? Do we have enough to, yeah, oh, I can actually put that there. Let's try adding a little. We can do heavier blocks if that matters. Right below the spikes. That's kind of nice how that works out. All right, let's give it a try. See what happens. So we're still listing a little bit to the back when resting. And mind every time the cannons kick, they're going to kick backwards, top and bottom. But if the mass is fairly centered, that should cancel out. So this vehicle is a little tricky to get right to an edge. Instead, we get a little bit back, and we get some elevation, which means I can't shoot down so well. With the top cannons, you see the shots going off that way. But I can get the bottom cannons shooting at that down angle. Whereas if I wanted to shoot up, you get two very distinct spreads there. For better or for worse. Might even be able to use that. Let's see if we can hit that bridge. I'm practicing my aim. Oh, look at that. Bullseye. I am pleased with the results. So let's see how well we can tip it. There we go. Forward roll. Upside down. Apparently we'll just roll down slopes. Really good somersault. Could call it the tumbler. Doesn't seem hard to rate itself. If if I had trouble, I could probably... It was a little twitchy on the lateral. Just a tap will do that. Does these little somersaults very well. Could be a little frustrating in the heat of battle, but Oh, hello. Excuse me, friend. I've shot your guns. Keep shooting, I want to see what happens. So what did he shoot off? It's like we lost one lower wing. But there's no longer a thruster there, only a hover blade, so we're just hanging a little to the left now. So if I could get a little more weight on the front, I'd like that. I could exchange that armor block for a weighted block, and that would almost triple the weight contribution, double the weight contribution, so 7 to 15. Could see what that does. Actually, no, we could even probably add a block out, armor block out behind the shield. Back up. So there we doubled our weight. The front, still fairly low. It's about on the level with our 4 main hover blades. This back bar is 5. We've got 4 in the front now. And these little ones should be half of the weight, and that is what they are. They're half, so 7 and 3.5. Good. There's some sense there. So let's see how that looks on balance. So it still lists a little bit to the back. I'm afraid the tumbling down slopes will be a terminal design thing. Yeah, you can see those bobbings. It definitely won't end up on its side, that's the thing, that's clear. I like how instead of rolling it right, it does a forward flip. So it likes to be right side up. If I did a plumb line, that would keep it even more so. Sometime I'm going to play with a design like that. At some point. Hello, friend. I'm going to blow you up now. Huh. So yep, point blank range is a weakness. Don't know if that's such a bad thing, but... Alright, now that we've got a fully functioning, well, mostly functioning thing, let's take it out for a battle. It's Tier 3 are the stars we want. Got lots of friends to play with. 222 robots ready. Average wait time of 13 seconds, we got a 9. So, 10-second wait for a, 3-minute round. Really easy to churn through rounds. That's a cute design. Some people clearly like to design it to look like something more than for the practical, which can be fun, interesting. Some of them even do okay. Some are very bare-bone, thoughtful styles. Right, gentle on the steering. Oop, he's already a turtle. So I've got a machine gunner with me. Oh, you know what I forgot to put on? I did not put a jammer on. They're gonna know I'm here. Question is, will they look up? Oh, they're gonna shoot my friend. That's probably a flyer. Come around the corner. Come on, I dare you. Hello, friend. No, no, don't get up. Wow. Something just exploded. I think my friend must be incapacitated behind me. I mangled his vehicle and he still got all his guns. Man, that's brutal. So here's another one where he tried to use the shields well. He's got 3 launchers top, 3 launchers bottom. He's got this big open framework, and oh, look at him flip. So his blades are all well defended, but yeah, it's a little unstable. See, the time we spent getting that balance right made a difference. So here's a cute little cart. 2 launchers. Hopefully, I really hope those are some really good launchers, because his base is lower tier. He's low profile, which is cool. But he's being a whole lot of unhelpful right now. Oh. Oh, he's getting dismantled. Oh, he's just trimming the pieces off while our other friend wobbles about. Huh. See, that's cute. But those long, winnowy arms, those will just fall right off. And then there goes the launcher. Huh. So we actually won. Oh. Yep, so that's what happens when a launcher hits a vehicle like that. Nice big target to catch those explosions. So I won 594, and it's going to cost me 430 to repair. So net, not a wonderful take. Let's try again. I really don't understand the algorithm. I've had games where I damage people and I get stars, and I've had games where I don't damage people and I get stars. That game I did a fair amount of damage to that one guy, but I didn't get any stars, and I wonder if that's because he didn't die. Maybe that's what it is. I have to contribute damage to somebody who actually doesn't survive? Maybe? It's the mystery. Old familiar map. I know where I like to go on the other side, so we'll try countering that. Oh, there we go, flipping upside down. Stay low. Not looking good today. Banana juice. Our best friend Slopes. Tag him. Detonated. Oh yeah, that's satisfying. Right around this corner too. So we need a jammer. Gotta remember to put a jammer on after this round. Oh. I don't know what hit me. Uh-oh. Yep, we seem to be in a little bit of an issue with the tumbling right now. I have no idea how I'm flying like that. Must be the thrusters giving me ups. Ooh. I tagged him. He tagged me too. Oh, you know, that's probably part of why I'm missing a couple pieces. He's got nothing left. There's another one around this corner. I can just manage to steer there. And we'll zap him. There we go. Hey look, I got credit for 2 kills. If I can just steer onto their thing, we'll totally win this. Question is where... Ah, there's one. Oof. Seems to be having some trouble. Oh, took it right in the beak. Oh, I knocked him in the nose good too. He's got one little launcher left, and our guy down here has SMGs. If he's shooting, yeah, there you go. Shoot him off. We can just take out that one little cannon. He's toast. Oh, there you go. He's spent now. Go mow him down. No, go mow him down and then capture. You'll be fine. He doesn't have a gun left. If you were paying attention, you would know. Oh, he does have a gun? He's just helpless. What a round. That's got to be worth some stars. 279 to repair. That's not terrible. I must have lost a big chunk. Ooh.